Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm David Patton, and joining us now, Michael Reagan, best-selling author, political commentator, and of course, the son of the beloved 40th President, Ronald Reagan. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Good to be with you, David.
Well, Ronald Reagan was recently portrayed, as you know, as racially insensitive in the movie The Butler. Now, the occasion of the passing of anti-apartheid hero Nelson Mandela is being used by the left to once again try to attack your father's legacy. Why do you think that there is such a rush by liberals to try to paint the Gipper as a racist?
Well, they've been doing that for as long as I can remember. I mean, that's the card that liberals play on conservatives, and especially on Ronald Reagan, try to paint him as a racist and find something that he might have done that they can see as racist. And what happened in South Africa does not make my father a racist. Ronald Reagan was looking at the big photograph, the big picture. He was fighting a Cold War. And it's interesting also that Andrea Mitchell over at NBC and others at CBS didn't mention that Kennedy didn't do anything about apartheid, Carter didn't do anything about apartheid, Nixon didn't do anything about apartheid, Ford did nothing about apartheid. At least Ronald Reagan sent, at that time, Judge Bill Clark over to South Africa to sit personally with both of the people to talk about his anti-apartheid positions. But my father's position at that time was fighting communism, which the ANC was rife of, and fighting communism and bringing the Cold War to an end. That was his big target issue, and he was going to let South Africa deal with their own problems.
First things first. Now, we know that Martin Bashir recently resigned from MSNBC following outrageous remarks directed at Sarah Palin. I was curious about your reaction to Andrea Mitchell's recent claim, of course, as you mentioned, singling out your father on the apartheid issue. What is your reaction, and what should be the appropriate response?
Well, the appropriate response is tell the truth. I mean, the appropriate response to telling the truth is never the wrong response to something like Andrea Mitchell putting out the racist dialogue about my father. Martin Bashir, different issue. You know, these are like black and white issues. Martin Bashir, what he did was absolutely outrageous and uncalled for, what he said about Sarah Palin. The other side, though, is truly a political issue with the racism issue and what have you with my father. So, again, Andrea Mitchell, nothing's going to happen to her at NBC. That's the line that they play. Just what we need to do is make sure the truth also gets out there about Ronald Reagan and others that, in fact, they are trying to paint as racist in America.
Let's turn to the budget deal that's working its way through the House. It only promises $23 billion in cuts over the next decade, a dramatic reduction of the $91 billion in the original sequester. What say you, a good deal or a disaster?
You know, it's not a disaster. It's a deal. And not everybody's going to be happy. Conservatives aren't going to be happy. Liberals aren't going to be happy, and what have you. But it is a step. It is a step forward, if you will. You know, people need to understand that so much of what happens in Washington, outside of Washington, it's the perception. And right now, the perception of the Republicans is not a good perception. They need the perception that they're actually doing something and accomplishing something. What they need to really keep their eye on the ball about is winning back the Senate of the United States next year. If they were in charge in the Senate and they got the White House back in 2016, there's a whole lot of things that they can do. But right now, they only have the House of Representatives, so they're not going to be able to get the whole deal. They're going to have to inch it forward, go 10 yards at a time. Ronald Reagan believed if you go 10 yards at a time, you will get to the other end zone. And the reality of it is, I haven't read the whole bill. Nobody's really read the whole bill. And it's interesting, a year ago, we trusted the budget director when he was, in fact, running for vice president of the United States of America. And a year later, we don't like him. We loved Governor Christie. Then we didn't like him. We loved Marco Rubio. Then we didn't like him. We have got to start staying on the horses instead of shooting them while we're riding them.
Michael Reagan, sought-after speaker, best-selling author, and the proud defender of his father's conservative values. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on Newsmax TV.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.